rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Welcome everybody from around the world. My name is Bilal Abdul Kareem and this is the BAK Show. Brothers and sisters, we're going to be talking about a lot of different things here today. Firstly and foremostly, want to let you know that I'm your host, Bilal Abdul Kareem. And this show is your show. So you can send in your questions, your comments, your concerns, so that we can discuss them here live on air. We're going to be talking about things which are important to the Muslim Ummah at large. Specifically, we're going to be talking about what's been taking place in Gaza, and we're also going to be talking about what happens after the sanctions are lifted, or were they lifted. We're going to get started here, but first, I want to let everybody know, I want to let everybody in on a little idea or a project that we're working on here, and we really want to try to get your help here. Okay, everybody, we are working on a project called Voices of Truth. Voices of Truth is actually a project wherein we are documenting the struggles that the people had during the time of Bashar al-Assad. We're talking about prisoners, or I should say ex-prisoners, family members of prisoners who never returned, and we're also going to be interviewing people who actually did some of the oppressing. And we really would like to have your help for this. Visit our crowdfunding page. It's called Voices of Truth. That's on medina.com/Voices of Truth. Should be there on your screen right there. Yes, there it is. Medina.com/Voices of Truth. These are stories that even the people never thought would ever reach an audience abroad or even locally inside of Syria, because no one was ever able to tell this story. But we want to make that change. Why? Because if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. Okay, brothers and sisters, with that being said, we are going to talk about we're going to be talking about a bunch of different things. Feel free to send your questions, your comments, and or your concerns. But first, let's talk about Gaza. It's a real mess here. The real mess, to be honest with you, is not what we're going to talk about here. It's more of the fact that yesterday was the Arab Summit, the Arab League Summit. And I guess you're under normal circumstances, you'd expect that I'd probably be showing you images of Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and Tamim and some of the others who made their speeches there yesterday. Well, I'm not going to do it. Okay, why? Because it's just not newsworthy. You're not going to tell me that you're going to say on one day, we really need to stop the carnage in Gaza. But just a few days before that, you had Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates throw $3 trillion, I didn't say billion, and even that would have been bad, $3 trillion in investments to America. From Saudi Arabia, $142 billion to the defense sector. That's tantamount to saying, Trump saying, give me the money, Saudi Arabia, thank you, Netanyahu, take it, launch your bombs, boom, money, Netanyahu, bombs, boom. That's exactly what's taking place here. I think that a real study, and I'm going to just put this out there, I think a real study needs to be done by the ulama, whether Tamim, the Mohammed bin Zayed Nahyan, and Mohammed bin Salman are still Muslim. Because you obviously have a genocide which is taking place, and you're pledging billions of dollars, trillions of dollars, a good portion of it to the defense sector, to the one who is bankrolling and arming the genociders. I am not a scholar. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that these people are or are not Muslim. That's not my job. It's the job of scholars, and I do think that they need to take a look into this, because you can't tell me that you're going to be funding a genocide against Muslims on the side of the Israelis, because that's exactly what you're doing. And I challenge anybody to bring something other than that. Let's get started here. Okay. We've got Israel announces a new operation called Gideon's Chariots. Oh, yeah, I should say chariots. And this is as follows. All Gazans will be forcibly relocated to the area south of the Morag Axis, the only zone where humanitarian aid will be allowed. Let's talk about this. The black arrows represent how the population is going to be herded into this area. This is known as the Morag Corridor. This is Rafah. And it's southern Gaza. It's on the strip. It's on the border of Egypt. This is Egypt in here. This is the Philadelphia corridor that was supposed to be an area where there would be no troops. But all of the agreements and everything have all fallen by the wayside, and we've been talking about that ongoing. So this is where the population flows will go. They will continue to funnel the people into this area where they have stated that this is the only area wherein there will be aid available. So they want to move everybody to this area. We're talking about what? 45 square kilometers here. 2.2 million people herded into this small area. Now, some of you may be sitting back there saying, that's awful, that's terrible. Look at all that's happened and taken place over the past week. But stop. You've got to understand something. The increase and uptick of the killing and the bombings that took place over the past week, or I should say week to 10 days, it was at the height of it as Donald Trump was in the Gulf receiving $3 trillion in investments. How did that happen? What's going on? I would say that if I got $3 trillion that I'm going to invest in something, that's my time to be able to sit there and say, hey, look, we need to discuss some things here. I got that check. These checks are right here waiting for me to sign them. But we need to discuss what's happening in Gaza. Don't sign the check and then pass it over. And then 2 days, 3 days later, you get into the Arab summit that nobody's watching around the world. And you start talking about, oh, Gaza, and it's so bad what's happening in Gaza. Because ain't nobody listening. That's the reality of the situation. I don't know why they even waste their country's money going to these Arab summits, because they have never, ever, in any kind of weather, ever produced anything that I could say was tangible on the world stage. I'm going to say this again. I don't remember ever the Arab League producing anything with any type of weight on the world stage, period. And once again, I challenge anybody who could bring something of benefit that the Arab League has done. Love to hear it. Okay, so this is the situation here, brothers and sisters. This is the plan to funnel all of them into Rafah. Bearing in mind, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi was there also, and that's his country right here. And all the trucks, the aid trucks and everything are right there in his country, parked on the Rafah border, and his military didn't do a doggone thing, as my mother would say. Okay, everybody. Look, let's take a look and see what some of your questions, comments, and our concerns are. Let's take a look. Okay, let's see what we've got here. Do you think Hamas keeps the energy and the will to continue the fight in spite of Israel's offensive and pressure demanding them to surrender their weapons and to leave Gaza? This one is a pretty easy one to answer. I don't think that it's hard to maintain your desire to fight, because when you look at what the alternative would be, if this is how they treat the Palestinians, and bear in mind they've been treating the Palestinians this way and killing them and stealing their land for decades. If that's the way that they treat them when they are armed, what do you think the situation will be when you have no military capability? It's just not realistic for anybody who would sit there and say they should lay down their arms. Lay down their arms so that they can be put in concentration camps. Maybe somebody say, no, the world won't let that happen. They're doing it, it's happening, and nobody's stopping them. So what would be their motivation to lay down their arms? I couldn't think of a single reason. I would say that if this is the case, you absolutely have to fight. You have to resist. You have to. And hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends you additional help. It hasn't happened as of yet, but who knows? It might happen, but to surrender your arms would just be something that you would see no benefits in. And Allah knows best. Oh my goodness, we got something here. One Love, Jamaica's here. Oh, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair for tuning in, man. I really appreciate it. Dubstep is Kush 305. I don't know if that's man or woman. So if I screwed that up, please forgive me. Is Ahmed Dagayez al-Brittani still alive? I haven't heard contrary to it. Actually, I tried to contact him just a few weeks ago, but I didn't find his number. I'll try again. If you remind me, maybe I'll give you an update on him the next time we are live. Okay, let's talk about this. Vroom says, Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Have you noticed any changes after the sanctions were lifted? Bam, let's talk business for a second here. All right, issue number one, the sanctions were not lifted. Donald Trump said, he's going to order that the sanctions be lifted. Nice statement, nice speech, let's talk reality. There are several different types of sanctions. The two we're going to talk about today are the ones in which don't need congressional approval, which are presidential sanctions, and those that do need congressional approval and needs a lot of preparation and so on and so forth. First of all, the sanctions that were put forward by then President Barack Obama, the current president has the ability to remove those sanctions whenever he wants. However, the main sanctions or the Caesar Act, which is the main Biden sanction that's really affecting the country of Syria, those don't go away just because Donald Trump says so. That needs congressional approval. A lot of preparation has got to go into that. I'm talking about months at least. This is the first thing. The second thing here that has to be taken into account is that sanctions, as we mentioned, don't just automatically go away just because the president gives a speech. Now, in terms of what it feels like here, it doesn't feel like anything. And you have to understand something. There are other countries who had their sanctions lifted also, and it basically had no effect on their country and their economy. For example, Sudan, during the time of Omar Bashir. It is said that he gave away half of his country's sovereignty to get the sanctions lifted, and some of those sanctions were lifted. But inflation continued, and employment continued, and so on and so forth. So I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, you've got to know how they play the game. You need to look at America with a backdrop of America and Israel are one. They're not two entities, they're one entity. So if this is the backdrop, and that's Israel, do you believe that the U.S. president would work and make an opportunity for Syria to grow strong economically? Because growing strong economically will mean they will grow strong militarily. Do you believe that with Israeli interests in mind, that the U.S. president would dare take a step like that? Of course not. Of course not. There's no way in the world that they could see there be a militarily, economically, and socially strong Syria on Israel's borders. Full stop. So any talk about they're lifting the sanctions and it's going to all of a sudden cash is going to fall from the sky onto the Syrian people, this is just not going to happen, brothers and sisters. It just doesn't work like that. But the Syrian people, unfortunately, because of the years of oppression from Bashar al-Assad and their lack of ability to participate in any type of political process, they don't understand it like that. They don't know how the game is played. So that night, they shot off rounds of Kalashnikov fire. People were in the streets beeping their horns, and they were happy because they were expecting, okay, the sanctions have been lifted. Hooray, we're saved. No, brothers and sisters, hooray, you are not saved. And because you will not be saved by the same entity that is funneling and fueling arms, cash, and political support to carry out a genocide just some kilometers away from your country. This is not even realistic. It's not realistic that the US president that authorized so many billions of dollars in weapons to be sent to Israel as they're carrying out the genocide, at the same time is going to be willing to say, hey, Syria, we really want to make you great again. This is just talk and bluster, bearing one thing in mind. All of this, or I should say, strife between Netanyahu and Donald Trump, all of this that we're hearing now, we only heard about that just a few days before his Middle East trip, wherein he got $3 trillion in investments. And I'm going to tell you something too. Shoot, if I could go somewhere and I could get me $3 trillion worth of investments, I'm going to cook up a story before I go over there also. Well, actually, I probably wouldn't lie. But I mean, the point of the matter is clear that you cannot trust this man. And I'm not sure if Ahmed Shara understands that. So, but he didn't call me and ask me for my advice. And that's the reality of the situation. All right, next up. Ansar 95 says, Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can you tell us about the situation in southern Syria? Yes, inshallah, I can tell you about that. But first, I want to ask you, brothers and sisters, to please visit our crowdfunding page, which is right here on medina.com/voices of truth. Once again, this is a project that I am heading where we are documenting the atrocities which have been committed against the Syrian people. Our brand new website will be up the 1st of Dhul Hijjah, so you'll get a chance to take a look and see exactly how we're doing, what we're doing, how we're doing it, and you'll be able to experience some of these stories yourself. They're translated into being translated into English so that it's easy for everybody to follow along and everybody will know what their struggles were because they were never able to tell those stories before. So please do visit our crowdfunding page. That's medina.com/voices of truth. All right, let's get back to where we were. All righty. Okay, can you tell us the situation in southern Syria? Southern Syria is a place called, you have Dara, you've got Quneitra, and these are the southern Syrian areas on the borders of Israel. Unfortunately, we don't have the map here, or else we would have been able to show it to you. All right, but at any rate, there are no government troops in those southern areas. Israeli forces are occupying areas of Quneitra. In places like Dara, where it's not an occupation, but IDF forces regularly, I'm talking about like daily sometimes, come into the territories of Syria. They set up checkpoints, they raid houses, they steal cattle, they do all kinds of things, and then they go right back across the border as if nothing ever happened. There were 9 brothers which were killed going back about a month and a half ago, I would say. But they were local fighters who had had enough and wanted to resist the Israelis from coming in and out of their territory. May Allah accept from them. I mean, those were not Damascus troops on those borders. I think that has to be made crystal clear to everybody. I'm not sure what possible outcome that might be. We'll have to watch it and we'll have to wait and see. But that's the situation in southern Syria. And may Allah make it easy. Ameen. Okay, next up, we've got Israel almost won Eurovision Song Contest yesterday. Shouldn't they be banned from participating there and from sport competitions such as UEFA or the Olympic Games? What do I say to something like that? I would say that there shouldn't be an institution, entertainment, sports, political, or otherwise, that should allow Israel as a country or those who carry Israeli passports to participate in their events. It would just be morally corrupt to allow something along those lines to take place. Now, somebody sit there and say, oh, come on, Bilal, sports is sports, don't bring the politics into it. This is not about politics. We're not discussing politics. What we're discussing is basic human decency. That's what we're discussing, and don't be confused. As long as there's going to be a genocide that's taking place, the world has to take a stand, even if the leaders won't. And Allah knows best. Okay, Ansar95 said, I wanted to donate to Voices of Truth, but it didn't work. Could you add another option to donate, like internet direct pay? Please try it again. Maybe the net was slow or something along those lines, but please do try it again. Alhamdulillah, we've had a good number of people to donate to us. Please, we want you to be one of them. Okay, next, we've got, do you think Trump will put pressure on Israel to reach a ceasefire agreement with Hamas? No. Why would I assume that? Now, if you would have asked me before the trip that these Gulf countries want to make investments of $3 trillion, would that be enough to pressure Donald Trump to tell Benjamin Netanyahu to chill? I would have said maybe it'll be 50-50. But basically, they gave him the money and didn't make any demands. Should I assume that now that he's got these $1 trillion investment promises, that all of a sudden now he's going to do an about face when he didn't do it before he got those pledges? No, I don't see it. What's in it for him? If you look at it, he got the American-Israeli soldier who's back in America with his family. I believe he's in America, not sure. But he's back with his family. Trump secured his release. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like anything in return was given. There was no ceasefire agreement or anything of that nature. And Donald Trump still went to the Gulf and still got $3 trillion in investment, and he didn't have to do anything to do it. He got the hostage soldier, $3 trillion in investment, and didn't do a doggone thing. How's that? Okay, next. Would support rebellion against a Shura regime. I don't think that this is the answer, to be honest with you. I really don't. I don't think that we are people who needs to be constantly calling for rebellions against our leaders. However, we have to be a people where there are checks and balances and we can call our leaders to account. The two are not one and the same. Unfortunately, in this part of the world, when I bring news that's not favorable to the government, some government people see me as calling for a rebellion against them. That's absolutely incorrect and false, and it's not true. But what I am doing is that I just can't stand there and just watch as the Muslims have no idea what's going on in their names and the danger that it may produce. So I bring information. You can make your own determination whether you think that what is being presented and said is good or not. You should follow it or not. It's actionable or not. That's not the same thing as calling for rebellion. I do not call for rebellion, but I do call for holding leaders to account big time. Let's see. Okay, next we've got, I think people are being quick to cast judgment on Ahmed al-Shara. I can't say I know what his intentions are for the future of Syria. I think we just have to wait and see. I don't think that we just have to wait and see. I think that Ahmed Shara's vision for Syria should be a bit clearer for us. I think that it should be clear. I think that there needs to be more engagement from representatives around the country. See, one of the things that you have to keep in mind here is that the people who are in his government are people whom he appointed, or the people he appointed them. These are not elected officials. These are not people who have their positions because they have the support of the people. This is not the situation here. So therefore, it's not a situation where you've got somebody in a certain district and the people saying, hey, we elected you, go and talk to Ahmed al-Shara, tell him what the heck is going on. You see, that's not that kind of animal doesn't exist here at this time. And well, that's the situation. So it's difficult to call people to account when they got their positions of power and they didn't need you. Now, I'm not saying that that's what his intention is. Only Allah knows what his intention is. But what I am saying is that I am not a person who's for democracy, but I am for a person who is with shura and elections. Elections and democracy are not one and the same thing. Democracy, by definition, is when the people make their laws. For example, if the people elect officials that say we should have a casino and sell booze in a Muslim country, this is democracy. Our candidate won, and this is the platform. I'm not with that movement. Our constitution needs to be the Quran and the Sunnah. That's first and foremost. So if there are laws that go against the Quran and Sunnah, then those laws fall by the wayside, don't make a difference who got elected to where. That's the first thing. But shura and elections is taking the opinions of the people who are being governed over. That is not the same thing. So we have to be very careful in understanding, are elections and democracy one and the same thing? The answer is no. Malcolm Y. Okay, did you ask the Mujahideen about their opinions about these issues in Syria? There's a lot of the Muslim fighters who are not happy with the situation here in Syria. They're not happy. I think that a lot of the people in the southern part of the country and all, they were really happy about the statements made by Donald Trump and so on and so forth. The people in the north were a bit more skeptical. I think that the fighters were looking for a much more Islamic approach than we're currently seeing, or we should say that than what we've been seeing since December the 8th, when the country fell. They were looking for more of what they felt they were promised in terms of Islamic rule, and that hasn't materialized. So I think that for those reasons, they're not particularly they're not particularly happy. And I want to say this. Look, here's the deal. The Muslim Ummah has seen a lot of people come and go as leaders. They would say that Jamal Abdel Nasser was a fox. They would say Hafez al-Assad was such a smart guy. They would then come and then say Hosni Mubarak had so much experience on the world stage that he could always navigate around difficult times Anwar Sadat like that, and Gaddafi, and so on and so forth. Look, let's talk reality here. That which made the Arabs great was Islam. I'll say this again. That which made the Arabs great was Islam. The more Islam they hold on to, the greater the Arabs are. The less Islam they hold on to, the more they are humiliated. And that's the reality of the situation. And we're going to continue to be humiliated until we see some Islam. Now, I know right now there's a big wave of popularity, but here's the reality. The reality of the situation is that, first of all, Ar-Razaq is Allah. And so whatever economic terms are going to happen is going to come from Allah. But as long as we are not taking the steps to please Allah, where are these changes going to come from? Oh, I know, it's going to come from the great decision making. Yes, you have to take the reasons to be successful, meaning make good, informed decisions. But if you're totally ignoring the fact that those decisions will get currency and success only from him, dude, you're missing the point, man. You're all missing the point. We've seen plenty of people with PhDs in economics and they can't restart the economy in their countries. We've seen people with PhDs in political science and they can't seem to gain any type of political support domestically or internationally. We've seen all kinds of people with doctorates in this science and that science, but at the end of the day, they thought that their ideas were better than Allah's ideas, even though they won't come out and say that. And I'm not saying that the government is saying that. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that the Muslim fighters who participated in this 13-year conflict, 14-year conflict, they were looking for a little bit more of an Islamic approach. It hasn't happened as of yet. We'll have to wait and see what happens after this. Now, let's see. Is ISIS really a problem there? I'm convinced all ISIS are just Western tools to involve themselves in the region. I'm skeptical. I'm not telling you anybody's lying, but I'm saying more information is needed. I'm skeptical in terms of ISIS's position, strength, and power structure. I'm skeptical. I am not going to sit here and tell you that some of what's being said today is incorrect and false. I can't tell you that. I don't work in the intelligence bureau. I don't. But I'm skeptical. And I think that we all need to be vigilant and to keep our eyes open so that these Western no-goodniks who want no good for Syria aren't pulling our chain by pulling off certain funded attacks. We'll have to wait and see what that's going to ultimately be about. Next, are foreign fighters being pressured to leave Syria already, or do you believe that that might happen in the near future? No, foreign fighters at this moment in time are not being pressured to leave Syria. That is not the case, in spite of what was widely rumored by statements of Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary for the White House, who outlined some areas of concern by Donald Trump before meeting Syrian President Ahmed Shara, formerly known as Abu Muhammad Jolani. They outlined some things, and one of those were to get rid of the foreign fighter terrorists. Now, once again, I want to define what Donald Trump thinks a terrorist is. A terrorist is anybody calling for Islamic Sharia. That's how he understands things. So this is his message. So you have to understand how he thinks so you can understand what the message is. Now, I cannot tell you that Abu Muhammad Jolani or Ahmed Shara has caved into that demand and he's willing to toe that line. I couldn't begin to sit here and tell you that because we haven't seen that on the ground. And if we had, I would tell you, but we are not seeing that on the ground. But I think that a lot of muhajirin are concerned because there are a lot of international bodies who are speaking about muhajirin, and they're feeling that their voice is currently marginalized. So we're going to have to wait and see how that's going to pan out. But can I stand here and tell you that they're being pressured to leave Syria at this time? No. Okay. Let's see. All right, now, next, and this will be the last one. Assalamu alaikum, Bilal Abdul Karim. Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A couple of days ago, the British military attaché met with Syrian defense minister in Damascus. Is this acceptable, and what does this meeting mean? The details of the meeting are not clear, but I will tell you that from my perspective, I have no problem for members of the government to meet with any leaders around the world as a general principle. I wouldn't have had a problem to meet Bashar al-Assad and do an interview with him if the situation was suitable for that. But there is a lack of transparency, I think, that's going on. And to be honest with you, Arab governance is like that. It's a lack of transparency. Arab lands are traditionally that way. The Syrian government is comprised of the Arab people. So a part of that is going to be kind of built in. However, I hope that the brothers and sisters understand that what will make Syria great again is when there's a more inclusive project that includes the Syrian people in on the political process, which is something that's not happening right now. So we'll have to wait and see. We're going to check it out, and we'll see what's going to happen. Okay, brothers and sisters, we got to get ready to run. But once again, yeah, I'm going to hit you with it one last time. Please visit our crowdfunding page. That's medina.com/voices of truth. We've got a serious project that I am heading where we are bringing the stories of the people who are oppressed under Bashar al-Assad to you in hopes that those who know the past will never repeat it again. I am your host, Bilal Abdul Karim. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.